and probably another boatmate. So when you get here, you sign in, and then you'll be assigned boats. And the first thing you want to do is gather your gear and check in with your instructor. The first items we have here is a tiller, rudder, which actually steers the boat. You got plugs, which help prevent water from entering the boat. You got a bag with 2 sails, which is a mainsail and a jib sail. Also, you have a baler with a sponge, because oftentimes in bad weather, when you get here, there might be water in the boat, and you're going to have to clean it out with using the baler for the water and the sponge to wipe it down. You also have a paddle. Paddle is important because if the sails are down and you need to move around, your paddle is going to be your only way of moving around. You also have life vests, and all the students have to wear a life vest. When you're on the dock, on the pier, in the boat, you have to always have your life vest. How many life vests you need? You need 1 per person and an extra one for the boat. And what I mean by for the boat is if you have the misfortune of capsizing, we use one of the life vests and tie it at the end of the mast to keep it from submerging into the water and digging into the mud. So always 1 for each person and an extra one, even for the instructor. Instructors may not always use them, but students always have to have the life vests on. So that's the first thing you do. You come in, you check it with your instructor, you find out which boat you got, and then you grab your gear. As we get in, there's a certain way of getting in. You've got your bow, which is the front, and you got your stern, which is in the rear. You get on the boat aft of the shroud. When I say aft, is behind the shroud, not in front. And as you see these flags are for the birds, not for you. We keep them up. It doesn't always work though. So let's start with that. First thing we do is you got to take the flags off. One side for now because I'm going to have to get into the boat. So again, first thing you do, there's 3 things you have to do when you get into the boat initially. When you get in, you're going to have plugs with you, and the plugs are so, as I step in the boat, there's holes in the back of the stern. As I step in, my weight is going to submerge the boat, and that's going to cause water to flow in. So the one thing I want to do right away is when I get in is plug up the holes. Get in after the shroud. I don't want to step on the seating because if I do that, it tips the boat. So I want to try to step all the way in and then get down low. And I haven't caused water to come in yet, which is good. So I want to plug them up right away. So I'm in. Once I'm in, then I can take the flag off, and my boatmate is going to hand me, or the dockmaster, if I'm by myself, it's the dockmaster. If I have another boatmate, the boatmate is going to start handing me gear. So, now that I've put the plug in, the next thing I need is the tiller. There's no right or wrong way to hand it, just as long as when you hand it to somebody it doesn't bang around. There's bolts on the side of this thing. You don't want to put it with the bolts facing down because it'll scratch the decking. So I'm going to move it over the edge of the transom here, but before I do that, I want to grab this clip line and hook it up to the traveler. If I drop the rudder, it's still attached to the boat and I can retrieve it. Now there are 2 pins and there's hooks on the back side. So it's just a matter of lowering it on, the bottom first, and the top one will slip in. Once I do that, I can take the safety line, and there's hooks on either side of the transom, and I just hook it on. And you can tell if it's properly attached as long as I can move the tiller back and forth freely without any obstruction. This is how you're going to steer the boat. Next thing I want to do is I want to drop these lines. These lines, there's a dagger or a centerboard in the middle. That's how that's going to control your buoyancy on the boat. It's down now, but normally it would be in the up position and clamp down. So when you get in the boat, you want to release it and let it drop. The green line pulls it forward. So the red line up, the green line forward. As long as you release it, it's going to drop to the bottom. And then you just let it hang. Right? And it's a dagger board. Centerboard. It drops down and it controls the stability of the boat. Next thing is I need all the other gear. At this point, I can have everything. So the first three things is when you get into the boat, number one is your plugs, number two is your line, number three is the rudder. You know, you can change that combination, but definitely number one is the plugs. Again, the bag's got the sails, paddle goes in the rear, and the baler keeping the bag. Again, the baler is just to clean up. If it's dirty, you just kind of wipe it down. The baler, if there's water, you bail it out, toss it out. And then one per person. So this would be with the boat mate, and that would be for the top of the boat. So how to don on? I mean, I should have shown you this before, but the easiest way to don it out, the life vest, is the strap is on the front. It goes over your head, around your back. It's a little cumbersome, but you know, when you fall in the water, you're going to appreciate it. If you fall. Okay, so first thing we need to do once we're in the boat is this: you got your mast and your boom. We have to lower the boom. On each one of the gears, there's lines. They're called halyards. This is right now. It's attached to the boom, and it's known as a topping lift, but because it raises it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower it. Release the line here, and lower it till it gets into the center of the boat. Okay? Then I'm going to remove this line, the topping line, and bring it back forward and attach it to the cleave here on the mast. This is your first knot. Okay, you round the bottom on the cleat. You round the top, cross the bottom, and then cross the top with a twist. And that's going to hold your line. That's called your cleat hitch. Now that I've got this red line here on the boom is called your main sheet. This is what you use to pull in the sail or let it out. It's basically how you control the speed of the boat. So I release that. It's probably tied up on a bundle with a slip knot on it. And then I unravel the line, I get to the end, and I put a stop knot on it, which is around, through, and it looks like a figure eight. Okay, so it's figure eight knot or a stop knot. And that's so that when it pulls through the block, it won't go through. So now, I'm going to take the mainsail and put it on the boom. The mainsail is your bigger sail. The jib sheet has got the blue lines on it. The jib sheet you'll end up using later on in the course, but for you as beginners, we're going to always concentrate on the mainsail. And there's parts to the sail. Everything has a name. This line here is tied to the clue of the sail. Again, I'm not going to expect you guys to remember this right off the bat, but everything is in your handout. So this is the clue. This is the outhaul line. I unravel it. rolled up and it's bundled. So I want to unravel it. This is my tack with the kringle in it. So I'm going to go back to the clue. And on this boom it has a slot. And it's going to, this bottom edge is the rope edge or the foot of the sail. So I'm going to feed it in this open area. And I basically pull it down the end of the slot until I get to the very end. And then I stop right there. So the first thing I need to attach is the tack. Now, got a little tube here. Goes into the slot. I feed it through. Then I go to the back to the end again. And this is my out-haul line. And this is the block that I feed it through. Now, I like to feed it from port to starboard. So from the port side, to the starboard side. Because on the starboard side of the boom is another cleat hitch. Yeah, the wind's gonna, it's a good windy day, so it's gonna, sail's gonna want to fly. So again, my cleat hitch tied around the bottom. So again, I pull it taut so it's nice and tight. Around the bottom, on the top side, cross one side, and cross again with a twist. And the twist has to have the bottom two lines parallel with a cross piece on top. It doesn't matter how long or short this is, all I need is this knot to hold it. Now if it's really long, just kind of wrap it around and tidy it up to get it out of the way. Just to hold it, the strength of the knot is in that first cross. Okay, so this part, the footing, is secure. Now, I'm coming here. I'm going to grab, first I have to find the top of the knot, or the top of the sail knot. And this is the head. So far, you got your clue, you got your foot, and you got your tack. This is the head of the sail. The part that faces away from the mast is the leech. The part with the roping that faces the mast is the luff. So again, there's a notch here. I feed it. Oh, first things first is I take my line, my topping line, which now is going to become my main sheet halyard. So this line serves two purposes. It's a topping lift or the main sheet halyard. So I'm going to tie a knot. There's three different knots you can use. You can do a bowline, you can do a stop knot, or you can do a 2/2 hitch. Again, get into more detail for the knots. I prefer the 2/2 hitch. So for me, the 2/2 hitch is I go in once, I go in a second time, so that's a round turn. And I go over the top, through, and I do it again, over the top, and through. The reason why I like this knot is that it tightens real tight, and when it hangs, it doesn't bend the top of the head of the sail in any particular direction. It holds it vertically. So, now that I got my knot on, take the slack out, find the knot, and as long as I'm into the channel of the mast, I can raise. Make sure I'm in a good position. There we go. So now I can raise. Now I have to raise it to the top of the mast, otherwise the boom will hang too low. So, since you guys have better eyes, am I at the top?
Yes.
Okay. So, now that we're at the top, we're going to tie it off again. You don't tie it off from the beginning. You tie it off in the middle. I'm just moving the knot out of the way again. Around the bottom, around the top, across the bottom, across the top of the twist. Again, and I need 2 parallels under the one. And then all this excess line, I coil it up in my hand, and then I tuck it into the line. And that gets it off the deck and out of your footing. So, any questions? You should have plenty. Come on. Somebody should have a question. Because at this point, I could just leave. Any questions? None? All right. So, again, the main sheet controls the speed. Before I take off, what's one thing that I need to look for? I need to know where the wind's coming from. How do I tell that? Well, there are different ways. On the shrouds, you see these little pieces of yarn. Over here, the shroud is on the side of the boat. There's a green one, and on the other side, that's the other thing. When you're moving about on the boat, you got to be careful, because I could stand up, the wind could blow, that boom knocks me over the side, and then I'm in the water. Why is it called a boom? Because if it hits you, it's going to hurt. It's going to go boom. All right, so how do I tell where the wind's coming from? The shrouds have these little pieces of yarn. Right now the wind is at my bow because the yarns are pointing in that direction. How else can I tell where the wind's coming from? You see the flags on the flagpole. Look at trees. Look at the moored boats in the water. They're tied off, but they're not held in place. So if they're pointing in that direction, that's where the wind is coming from. When you hear a weather report and you hear northeasterly winds, it's not where the wind is going to, it's where the wind is coming from. So when we get nor'easters, the winds are coming from the northeast. Marianne, you want to add anything?
No. But we have a minor issue here. Okay. From New York needs to get...
They need their slot.
Yes.
Yes.
So if we can move up further,
Absolutely.
and then we're going to see if we can reposition the chase boat.
Not a problem.
Okay?
All right.
And then,
One more
folks,
thing I
we'll
also forgot.
continue with the
Downhaul.
de-rigging. Oh, the downhaul, okay.
Yes. Well, I also wanted to show them a quick demonstration of how you leave it come out.
Yes. Oh,
Well, this is
okay.
perfect.
So that can happen.
Yes, it can happen over here.
Right.
So Donald's going to move me to the pier, because that's where you're normally going to rig the boat. It's off the pier.